Hey guys, Sebious here with another Sebious Speaks, and today I wanted to talk about Ravenlord by Gav Thorpe. Freedom Bought with Blood. I believe it was the second to last limited edition Horus Heresy novella, with the last one being The Purge, which I'll be getting to next, hopefully. But for now, we are, Ravenlord by Gav Thorpe. And I've literally just finished reading it and I absolutely loved it. I started reading it a while ago, read about half of it when I was finding it much harder to read, and then sort of gave up for a while, and I've just started it fresh and gone through the whole thing. And I've got to say, I absolutely loved it because it is the Raven Guard back to being ridiculously hardcore and kick-ass and talking about their axioms and ethos and their whole way of looking at things that kind of comes from Corax and many others' experiences growing up as prisoners on Lycaeus, and just being epic again, because I absolutely adore Raven's Flight, which was authored by Gav Thorpe, I think. The audio drama that takes place shortly after the Isfahan 5 drop site massacre, and it was my first real introduction to the Raven Guard and how they think and how they operate, and the kind of the character and mean of Corax and just how badass he is. And I just, from that moment, I fell in love. And I keep saying this, I'm going to re-listen to it and do a video about that at some point soon. But this is then back to that, because after that we had Deliverance Lost. Okay, first of all, there are going to be some spoilers. I'm going to talk kind of a lot about the story of Ravenlord, but there also might be a few other Horus Heresy spoilers along the way. Apologies for that. Deliverance Lost and Corax Soulforge a little bit. So just a heads up there. But so when we last saw them after Raven's Flight, Deliverance Lost, they're trying to re-up the Legion, as it were, and use the ancient knowledge of gene forging to try and help the Legion, but the Alpha Legion have infiltrated them in the survivors of the drop site massacre, and with some one of Bile's concoctions, they basically ruin the gene seed, which gives birth to the Raptors, who are the deformed, mutated. Some of them aren't deformed, but mostly deformed, mutated, kind of spawny Raven Guard, although they are very much loyalists. And there is actually an image of, we can see there he is there. That is one of the raptors with a kind of whole fish mouth, lamprey, lots of eyes, looking very demonic, like a kind of possessed marine there. Actually, could even be one of the things from the story bit, but that's going to give you an idea of what the raptors are like. And there was just so much sadness with Corax, and there's a lot of moping going on during this time. And then we had Corax Soulforge, which was another of the limited editions, and it was just really dull. And again, it was Corax being sad, and this sort of thing that keeps reverberating, and it does reverberate within this story as well, but much better. This whole question that Corax has: is he a monster? Are Space Marines and Primarchs just monsters made to fight other monsters? And that's something he keeps sort of looking at, the sort of the darkness within himself and questioning. But Ravenlord, we start with the prologue, which gives us a glimpse of the rebellion on Karandiru, which is a prison world, we later find out. And we just have Arendi, Corax, and Bran and his raptors kicking ass and taking names. Just epic mass fighting, and just Corax taking out Sons of Horus and Emperor's children, and doing that thing that he does so well, and he does it throughout this story. There's something about Corax. He's like, I know he has his custom melter, what's it called, combi melter weapon, but he's like the Kung Fu Primarch, because he's constantly just putting arms through people's bodies and slicing people's heads off with his just karate chops, which is just awesome. He's kind of amazing for that respect. I know other Primarchs do that as well, but it just seems to be a big thing that he does, and it's just boom, straight in the prologue, we're in there. But there's word of a traitor that needs to get to that the information needs to get to Corax, and that's all we're left with the prologue. And then we find ourselves on Skarato, which is a world that Corax and his sort of surviving Raven Guard have liberated from the Sons of Horus, and they've helped spark a rebellion to take that world, and they're sort of using it as their base of operations. And they decide they're going to send out a message into the void, calling all loyalists that have sort of kind of been splintered and lost to come to their cause. And so people question this, like, is they're not just going to bring the traitors to us? Well, it seems too obvious to be a trap for the enemy, and it's far too tempting for the loyalists not to want to go. So they do, and scattered legions come in their hundreds to Skarato. And one of the awesome things that we have when we have the War Council and the organisation on Skarato is we have a great bit of diversity, both within the legions represented. Obviously, Ravenlord Guard, Imperial Fist. There's Custodes there. I think there's even a Night Lord and a Iron Warrior who are loyalists, which is kind of awesome. There's a whole lot of them, but there's also, just very interestingly, a lot of diversity within the actual kind of the races and the kind of physical appearance of the various different Space Marines, rather than kind of being just Space Britain, as it were, or just white Space Britain, as it were. There is a whole interesting kind of diversity there, and that actually goes through the story. There are lots of female guards and soldiers, which is awesome. So it's just one thing that I really picked up from going through this. It's one of the complaints that 40k sometimes gets, and there's a lot of women, and there's a lot of sort of ethnic diversity, which is kind of awesome. So they're all there calling people in, and one of these people that arrives is Gareth Erendi, who is one of the Primarch's bodyguards, who has arrived very late from Istvan 5, and it all seems to be very suspicious. He seems to have a secret. All the new Marines, as they come in, are kind of being sort of interviewed and probed by a psyker, by one of the librarians, and he definitely is who he thinks he is, and who he says he is, but he definitely harbours a dark secret. And the other guys that with him also do. But he definitely is who he is, and so the Primarch decides to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt, even though he's kind of giving a few people a little bit of the heebie-jeebies, but they all want to be kind of united in what they're doing. And he has this piece of information, which is Karandaru, which is a prison world, a whole prison complex, which is loyalists and loyalist Marines all being held within this place, which is far too much of a tempting thing for Corax and the Raven Guard, having grown up in prison and that feeling so strongly about oppression and imprisonment and freedom. This is something that they feel they need to do. So he calls his kind of ragtag epic mashup of Space Marines together, and he is deciding that he feels that he needs to teach these other Space Marines the ethos and the way of fighting for the Raven Guard, because Corax believes that one of the reasons that the Raven Guard were targeted at the Dropsite Massacre was because the Horus wanted to have the Raven Guard gone, wanted to completely remove them from the fray and the Horus Heresy itself, because of their ninja, sneaky, hit and run, strike and fade, guerrilla warfare. They are the guerrilla ninjas. Guerrilla Ninja Raven is what they are, and he feels he needs to teach these new Space Marines this, so that they can keep taking the fight through the traitors, especially when they're so vastly outnumbered in these small cells and these groups they find themselves within. So to that end, there's some epic, rousing speeches talking about this whole the axioms of be. The first axiom is oh dear, words are failing me. To be where the enemy do not expect you to be, and the whole mentality of and how passionate they are about freedom and using subterfuge and sneakiness as a liberating weapon. So it's kind of Korax is the Raven Guard's whole thing. It's like one of the reasons that Korax has a lash is that he has as a weapon, which is a sort of symbol of oppression and imprisonment, but he uses it as a tool and a weapon for freedom. And that's just one of the things that makes a Raven Guard so amazing and so fascinating. I kind of love that about them. So they go into that, and there are some really kind of proper geek bump inducing speeches that go on there. They get them all themselves riled up, and definitely got me riled up. So they take it to their fight to some shipyards. They're essentially just destroying a port and harrying the traitors, just removing weapons from them and making them kind of move from one place to another. Which is when they have a large kind of very thought out space confrontation. We have the Raven Guard ships and the other Space Marines that are with them, all being dampened. All their exhausts and all the kind of heat signatures are being dampened by the special reflexive shields that that Korax's craft has, which kind of uses the shields and the getter fields and things, all their energy into low running and into masking any kind of thing that can be picked up by scanners or auguries or anything like that. Basically masking everyone other than a single Imperial Fist fighter. And this large ship is kind of draws a Sons of Horus ship out towards it, and the Raven Guard can only watch, all kind of low power, just invisible on the outlines, just hoping that they will remember their lines, as it were, just remember how to do it the Raven Guard way, kind of luring them into the kind of the sprung trap of dragging them into this whole space battle, which is invisible to them at this moment, dragging them into the clutches of the Raven Guard, and they do, and suddenly they just shoot off and warp away, and the Raven Guard turn the power on and blast the Sons of Horus into pieces. There is this wonderful moment. I believe it's Sukunu is checking the very archaic sort of radar system that he has, because it has to be so low power. Just hoping that this is all going to work, and just waiting for that moment when to turn all the power on, and you have all the commanders, the 50 odd Space Marines on the ship, all sort of stood back, just kind of statues in their armor. And the moment he sort of flicks that switch and puts the lights on, they all just, their eyes glow and they kind of step up ready for action. And it's just a really awesome kind of hair-raising epic moment I really kind of enjoyed. So that was rather epic. So we then are now taking it to the planet Karandru and the prison itself. It starts. We have the Shadow Masters. They're sneaking in, getting in. They are using their kind of not invisibility powers, but their powers to not make people notice them, so they can sort of sneak in and silently kill in a very Sam Fisher kind of Solid Snake kind of way, take out all the main security, the security hub. They're also supported by Korax, who is just ridiculously epic, launching on his own out of his Stormbird or Thunderhawk, and just dropping down on his flight pack, and just seeing guards on towers and walls as he's dropping down. He's not even coming to get them. He's got his own mission. He's seen a Mastodon, which he presumes is kind of a big APC control unit, which hopefully might have important people inside. He's going to take down the Mastodon, but on his way, he's just dropping past guards and things on the walls, flicking out a wrist, flicking out a wingtip, just decapitating and chopping people into pieces as he dives down, which is just beautiful. He lands the Mastodon, tears that thing up, does that thing he enjoys doing, which is ripping heavy bolters or kind of other weapons from their cupolas, and then turning them on the enemy, who all turn out to just be human beings, and he kind of destroys them all rather quickly, which is rather epic. At the same time, Bran and the Raptors, we get to see them, and now Bran was the commander who was left with the garrison on Deliverance, who was eventually convinced to go and pick up the Raven Guard in Raven's flight. He's the one that kind of actually saves them. And he is now in charge of the Raptors, who are, as I sort of previously said, the mutated gene seed, but still loyalist Raven Guard. And they basically, while everyone else is sneaking in and Corax is doing his epic thing, they are rolling hard with the heavy armor and just smashing everything to pieces and doing their thing, because, as Bran says, sometimes you need to destroy everything. You can't just be sneaky. That's not how it works. But we have Hef, I believe it is one of the lieutenants of the Raptors. And he's looking at himself and he's looking at his other Raptors, just seeing these mutations and seeing that those aren't affected as well, and just kind of wondering what the hell's going on, and like trying to find their own kind of place within the Raven Guard. And it's kind of, while they're having thoughts of this, they see there's one part of the prison which actually has lots of defenses and weapons aimed at it itself, rather than kind of facing outwards to defend it. So they decide there must be interesting, or maybe some legion in there, so they go to try and break in. While breaking in, they find cage upon cage of more mutated legions that kind of reflect themselves, who are kind of baying and howling and throwing things, smashing themselves against the bars, although all silently, because the power field kind of cuts that out, which gives it this wonderful, creepy, kind of gothic, horrible tone when you've got this kind of malformed, mutated legionary just screaming silently, just kind of creepy. But then they find themselves in a fight with what seem to be large guards, but turn out to be Blood Angels and a Raven Guard Tech Marine, I do believe, who seem absolutely appalled and disgusted at the Raptors, who they call subhumans, like the experiments that the prison commandant has been performing on the legion that he has captured. And there is a serious bit of tension and kind of disrespect going on here, which is just feels so much for the Raptors. Like they were just innocent initiates that wanted to help, reforge the Raven Guard, and it's through Fabius's kind of machinations and the tainting of the gene seed that they are so messed up now, and so reviled by the other their brothers, which is kind of just really harsh. And that's just a really heavy moment that kind of hurt quite a lot. So Sugonu is talking with the 17-year-old commander, who was part of the rebellion. So the plan was they sent Sugonu in before anything else happened, and he was just one legionary there to whip up the rebellion from within the planet and the prison itself. So it was already kind of broiling and ready to go when the Raven Guard attacked, and having this rather interesting moment in the midst of the fighting, sort of talking again about their ideals and how important it is for this guy who's just a 17-year-old human, not even an Astartes or any kind of added to or beefed up human. He's just a 17-year-old guy helping for the cause, and they're just kind of awesome moments there. Just how important just the spark of someone being willing to rebel and fight off their oppressors, and how important that is. So that's kind of awesome. We have Corax finds a small, kind of seemingly not important, but seemingly important by its seeming lack of importance, if that makes sense, a security hub where he presumes to find the commandant of this camp. And he launches on it with all more epicness as he does, and ends up fighting two jets in the sky, a whole smattering of anti-air, and then landing amongst what sort of seem to be kind of proto-obliterators. They're described later as new men, or Legioni Superius, which is the grand designs of Fabius Bile and his kind of machinations on the traitor guard, making them bigger, stronger, harder, faster, more chaotic, and there's just so many plasma cannons and lightning rifles which have sorcerous powers that seem to be paralyzing him. They just kind of blow Korax away to a certain extent and have him pinned down to the floor, when finally it is revealed a Raven Guard is the leader of the camp. Nathian, I believe. We get a little flashback of the initial rebellion on Lycaeus back when Korax was still a prisoner, and how he helped overthrow the techno guilds on Kiva. And Nathian was a smuggler. He was a murderer many times over by the time he was already 13, but he was a major smuggler and user of information within the prison. And he wanted to be part, he wanted to escape along with everyone, and lots of people didn't want him to be part of it, but Korax kind of saw his use and knew that he would not just need good people to do his rebellion and to escape this life of servitude that had been thrust upon them by the Techno Guild. And again, people wanted to not have him join the Raven Guard when the Emperor came and they were bringing people in, but Korax, he kind of wanted everyone that was able to be, that was part of his original rebellion, to be with him, because they've become kind of so close to him in many ways. But that's just turned around, and Nathian is now a traitor Raven Guard, running a prison himself after spending so much time in a prison, which kind of absolutely disgusts Korax. But he doesn't have much time to think about it, because the new men are about to blow him to smithereens, and Nathian does his proper supervillain walk off and just, I'll leave my menials to it. At which point Arendi and some of the other the former bodyguard of the Primarch show up and kind of save the day. And there's another epic scrap with Korax being epic and other people being epic. Although Arendi afterwards is very informal, calling Korax Corvus and calling him an idiot a number of times, which really starts to make Korax a bit unsure about his motives. But forget that, because he's off to fight Nathian, and he wants to take him down and find out what has made him turn on his Raven Guard brothers. So Korax then kind of enters Nathian's chamber, which is epically some kind of real... there's a weird kind of black comic kind of edge twist sort of to the end, where we have this supervillains type lair, and he's kind of asking him, like, why is he doing this? There's empty bottles, like, you've been drinking? Really? It's just very odd, kind of disapproving father-son kind of evil villain type moment going on. And Nathan kind of explains that he was lost on Isvan 5, buried under a whole swathe of word bearers that he'd cut down himself, and he was left to rot like so many of the others, both when Korax went on his kind of vigil to scout and to sort of see how he felt about things on Isvan 5, and he just saying how abandoned he had felt, and that Lorgar actually turned up, presumably pulling the dead word bearers off him and telling him that he loved him, and opening his eyes to the secrets and lies of the universe, and kind of whispering sweet chaosy nothings into his ear, and kind of bringing him on board with a bunch of other Raven Guard, which is kind of a scary prospect. And when you think there's going to be some kind of big confrontation, Nathan pulls out a bolt pistol and pulls out a bolt pistol, and Korax is like, that's not really going to do much, is it? He's like, well, no, this is going to hurt you, presumably for the rest of your immortal life. And then takes the bolt pistol, places it under his chin, and blows his own head to pieces, just to kind of mess with Korax, which is rather heavy. Arendi kind of walks in, and again, he's still being very uncouth and very kind of very informal with the Primarch, calling him Chorus, calling him an idiot again, being very frank with him, to the point where Korax kind of really said, like, you need to watch your tone and, like, show me a bit more respect. And Arendi kind of explains, the Raven Guard have never been the most formal of legions. We've always kind of appreciated us speaking our mind and showing fault and helping to overcome our own weaknesses within ourselves and point that out, even within when it comes to Korax and Erendi. And they kind of have this weird moment where Korax is still not sure if he can trust him, and he's kind of getting close to maybe thinking about killing him when Erendi finally tells him how he and the others got off Isfan 5, which was by using, when they were supposed to be supporting the Iron Hands and the Salamanders in a movement, they actually just allowed some Iron Hands and Salamanders to die as cover for them to make their own escape. That was after them being on the planet for over 360 days, so they were there for basically an entire year fighting, but they betrayed their brothers to escape, which leaves a real kind of sour taste in the mouth and taste in Korax's mouth. But he's kind of thankful that they have survived, and really he decides that he might not be able to trust him, but he's going to choose to trust him because he doesn't want any more. He doesn't want to lose any more sons. He doesn't want any more fractiousness between the Legion, and that is something that kind of really comes up across the book. Is the fractiousness between the Legion. There is the weirdness between the Terranborn, who have the initial glories of the Great Crusade, that the later Raven Guard from Lysaeus and Deliverance don't have. But there is also the kind of the bond and the true the true camaraderie and understanding of the whole Raven Guard ethos, which kind of comes from those that were on Lysaeus and were part of the prison kind of escape and the uprising against the Techno Guild. And this is another thing that has been in other times with those that were on Isfan and had been through that, and those that hadn't, that show fractures within the Legion. And finally there is the fractures within the Legion between the Raptors and other people, because the Raptors are just innocent initiates that want to be Space Marines that have been corrupted into what they are, but they are still fighting loyally. And the prologue of the book was absolutely heartbreaking and really left me in geek bumps, and from what had been a really kind of exciting Raven Guard whoa book to kind of like it is actually because the Raptors and Bran were the ones that found the experimented legionaries. It is their duty to put them down and to slay them. And there's I've properly got geek bumps going on. And it's just Bran kind of repeats this thing that's been going through Korax's mind for some time. Are we not just monsters to kill monsters, the Raptors to kill the experiments? Is that not all we are? And that is kind of what's left Korax thinking. Maybe just the Space Marines and the Primarchs are just monsters created to fight more monsters. Man, and it's a glorious book, and I love it, and I probably just spoiled it for you, but just to give you the kind of the overarching story that is there. But it's definitely still worth a read if you can get your hands on it, and I've just really enjoyed it and can't wait to get more into the Horus Heresy. I'm really enjoying having reading as something back in my life, because it's not something my brain can always do, and I'm eager to start the Purge and to be talking about that with you again soon. So that's been another Sebious Speaks for Allies Index, a place for all things geeky gaming. That's alliesindex.com. And if you want to share anything, any book reviews for Black Library or anything, any other geeky gaming, there's Magic books out there, World of Warcraft, Halo books, Mass Effect books, all sorts of stuff. If anyone want to share anything geeky gaming with us, just submit. And if you want to do something more regular and become part of the blog, we're happy to have you join us as well. But once more, I'm Darth Sebious for alliesindex.com, and I'll catch you guys again soon. Taddy bye.